How are you doing today, everybody? I have some news I want to go over. I wasn't planning on doing a video today, but it's kind of piled up on me here, and I want to go over some of this stuff. Um, Recent Saints news. So I read an article a few minutes ago, something I'd read earlier about 3 weeks ago, and it finally happened. The New Orleans Saints have finally been awarded compensatory draft picks for use in the upcoming 2021 NFL draft prior to additional picks. So originally the Saints had a first round pick, a second round pick, and a fourth round pick. But because of a deal with the losing Teddy Bridgewater, and then we lost the minority coaching staff person to Atlanta, and some other odd and things, we was able to acquire. Now we have 2 third-round draft picks and a 6th-round draft pick. So that gives us a first, a second, 2/3, a fourth, and a sixth. That, if you don't already know, and I'm sure most of you do, that is absolutely huge news, and that can make a huge impact. If those draft picks are spent well, that can make a huge impact, especially given the absolute hell that our salary cap situation is in right now. I mean, 2 third rounders, you can get really solid players in the third round. I want to say Alvin Kamara was drafted in the third round. So we're going to need help at linebacker and other places. There's already being tough decisions made. And so we're going to need those draft picks for sure. They're going to come in handy. It's really huge that we are getting 3 additional picks. Now, some other news, like I said, tough decisions are going to have to be made. A lot of people are upset every time the Saints announce something, or if something's leaked or whatever, like somebody's going to get released or cut or traded. And they're like, man, they're just getting rid of everybody. I mean, I don't know if y'all understand or not, but they have to get under the salary cap. It's not like, well, we'll just, you know, pay everybody and keep everybody. It's impossible. Look, I'm not a salary cap expert, but you have to be under it. Period. So there's decisions that have to be made. You can't always keep these favorite players. Now, one of these players that claims he's going to test free agency is Alex Anzalone, and he's kind of, well, the rumor was he was upset when they traded for Quan Alexander from the 49ers, because it kind of signaled to him that he wasn't getting the job done, and now he wants to test free agency. All I can say is, and I think most Saints fans feel the same way, is bye. Because while you have shown spurts and flashes of being a really good linebacker, you have no consistency. You stay hurt. And then when we really need you to come through and cover tight ends and running backs and all these other things, you just can't come through for us. So goodbye. That doesn't bother me at all. It would be a welcoming sight to see you leave. Now, the rumors are that Quan Alexander and Emmanuel Sanders are getting released. People are all in a frenzy about this. And don't get me wrong, Quan Alexander, when he came to the Saints last year, made an immediate impact, very good linebacker, and helped us win some games. Same thing with Emmanuel Sanders. Had some really good games. I think he caught around 700 yards, and in catches, and he made a really good impact. What people don't understand, and they keep crying about on Facebook, is, going back to what I just said, you can't keep everybody. You can't re-sign all these players. It's not as if these players will be like, we'll take a pay cut just to stay with the Saints. Whatever you need us to make, we'll do that, and there won't be any issue. No, these people only have a certain amount of time to play this game at this level. These people are trying to make as much money as possible. Now, Quan and Emmanuel has stated that they would love to stay with the New Orleans Saints, but it's just not feasible. It's not possible. So if you're listening to this and you're one of those people that don't understand why the Saints are getting rid of all these players, they can't afford them. You can't have more salary being paid out than what the salary cap allows. So if you can't afford these players, they have to go. That's just, I mean, it's simple math. So yeah, Quan Alexander, Emmanuel Sanders, I hate to see them go, but if they do, it's necessary. You don't want to have to see people like Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, and Alvin Kamara leave. So you have to make the cuts where you can. Now, people coming in to help out with this money situation, Demario Davis, absolute stud middle linebacker, and Cam Jordan, they both restructured their deals to free up money. I believe Alvin Kamara is planning on, if he hasn't already, I think he did restructure to free up money. And Malcolm Jenkins and Andrus Peat have freed up money to help get under the cap. And I want to say they are still 30 something million over the cap. Came a long way. I think there was at 90 million over the cap. Now they're down to 30 with all the cuts and restructures. Now, don't get me wrong, as I've said in my previous videos, I'm not a salary cap expert, but to my best understanding, when you restructure deals, that's not as if where you're just doing away with that money. You're essentially kicking the can down the road even further. So we're basically doing what we've been doing, which has got us into this situation to begin with, and we just keep kicking the can down the road. Now, hopefully it's a damn highway that we're kicking this can down, because if we make a wrong turn and get on a dead end road, we're going to run out of road to kick the can down. At some point, and I'll elaborate on this later, but at some point, we're going to have to suck it up and fix the salary cap situation. I would like to see the team. I understand they're still in that win now mode, even though it looks like Drew Brees is retiring. They still feel like they got a team that can go to the Super Bowl, even whether that be Winston, Hill, whatever. At some point, I would like to see it fixed. Now, if that means a few losing seasons, it is what it is. I don't ever want that. No fan ever wants that, but we need to fix our salary cap situation. The Dak Prescott deal that just was announced yesterday, where he got $160 million for 4 years, $126 million guaranteed. To me, this is getting stupider and stupider. Teams are putting themselves in an absolute salary cap hell. It is as if, it's everybody wants the biggest contract. When this quarterback's up, he wants to sign the biggest contract ever signed, and then this one wants to sign. I mean, at some point, these teams are going to be in a super crisis when it comes to the salary cap. You can't keep affording to pay these players especially quarterbacks, this kind of money, and then expect to still surround him with all of this talent and go to Super Bowls. It doesn't happen. Look at Tom Brady, why he left New England. He had no weapons anymore. The team, whether it was coaching staff or what have you, they wouldn't surround him with any weapons. And they still won some games, but that was purely on Tom Brady. Tom Brady leaves, essentially a lot of the same roster. Cam Newton steps in, they go 6-10 or whatever it was. You have to have a balance between salaries and talent. You have to be able to find undrafted free agents, talent that you can fit on that roster for cheap, whether it's playing a single role or whether it is just you getting them at a certain price and they can do, multiple different things. Somebody like Taysom Hill, whatever it is, you're going to have to figure out a way. These teams are really getting themselves into bad situations. They can't afford these contracts. even if the salary cap goes up, these teams really put themselves in a bind. Now, it was also announced that the Saints finally used the franchise tag. Not that that's necessarily a good thing. Players typically don't want to be put under the franchise tag because they don't have a long-term contract, and then if they get hurt, etc. But they put the franchise tag on safety Marcus Williams. Now, regardless of how you feel about him, he's actually a really good safety. Sometimes when you don't hear somebody's name a lot on the football field, that actually can be a good thing because that means they're not doing nothing bad. And he's typically a guy you don't hear a lot about. He has gotten plenty of interceptions for us in the past few seasons. Of course, a lot of us will never forget that missed tackle against Minnesota, but that's over and done with. But according to Pro Football Focus, of all the safety free agents on the market this year, Marcus Williams was the second best safety on that list. So apparently he's valued in the NFL. Saints couldn't afford to sign him right now, so they slapped him with a franchise tag, and maybe next year they'll be able to sign him. I don't know what they're planning on doing with Lattimore and Ramczyk. The last I heard, they're trying to free up money to be able to sign them extensions. Now, that will also save them cap space this year if they're able to sign them to extensions, because then they could take the fifth-year options on those two players and they can make a team-friendly cap hit for next season, 2021 season, and then kick the can down the road with the rest of their salary, etc. Now, we still haven't heard any word from Drew Brees. I'm pretty confident that he is going to retire. I would love to see him come back for another season. I think after having an off season off and his body healing, I'm absolutely confident that he could come back and bring us to the playoffs. I don't have confidence in him in the playoffs anymore. And the reason why I say that is by that time in the season, his body is worn, that arm starts to get tired, and it's just next level. In the regular season, Sean Payton comes up with schemes and game plans and all of this stuff, as well as the postseason. But teams, by the time you get to the postseason, teams have a lot of film on you. Some teams have even played you in the regular season, and they just bring their game to the next level. So I don't have confidence in the sense of him bringing us to a Super Bowl at this point. It's not because I don't think he can. It's just because the last few years, even though all of the playoff losses hasn't been his fault solely, it's kind of trending in that direction. I don't think he can get you to a Super Bowl, but I'm 100% sure he can get you to the playoffs. And look, as Saints fans, we're going to have to become unspoiled because we've been spoiled with Drew Brees and some of these other players where we go to the playoffs every year. When he leaves, that's not guaranteed. I don't care what any analyst or anybody tells you. There's a lot of people sold on Jameis Winston. I don't care what other talent you have on that team. You can't just turn around and hand it to Alvin Kamara every time. You can't throw those little swing routes to Alvin Kamara every time. Eventually, you're going to have to play deep. Well, and that's another thing. I've talked about it in my last video. You can't get to the playoffs and expect your quarterback to win the game for you. Sometimes it does happen. In the playoffs, you got to play outstanding defense and you have to run the football. I don't care what methodology you want to use to do that, whether it's ground and pound or, right up the middle, in between the tackles, sweeps, jet sweep, whatever play type you want to call it. At some point in the playoffs, you have to run the football, period. You have to play defense. That's how you win championships. Your quarterback still has a role to play. He's got to throw the ball. He's got to complete the ball. He has to not turn the ball over because there are many times you have to pass throughout the game. You can't just run it. But if you go into the playoffs and you play bad defense and you can't run the ball, or if you play good defense and you cannot run the ball, you're gonna lose. If you look up the stats, I guarantee you it'd be very rare where a team played outstanding defense, rushed the football very well, and lost. And that's just the fact of the matter. So, with these additional draft picks, before in my mock draft, I said that in the first round, the Saints should take, or I said that they was going to take, I don't remember if it was a linebacker. I think it was a safety. And then the second round, they was going to take a linebacker. Third round, fourth round, they was going to take that quarterback from Arkansas, Felipe Franks. Now that we have 2/3 and a 6, I would bet anything we're definitely going to get a linebacker. I would probably, because we're losing Anzalone, and the rumor has it we're losing Quan Alexander as well. Now, they'll get somebody in free agency just to fill a roster spot. But if I had to bet, without just breaking down and giving names, and not in any specific order, if I had to bet, we're going to be drafting at some point a rookie quarterback in this draft. We're going to be drafting 2 linebackers, probably a safety, an offensive line or defensive line, or not draft a safety and get an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. I really feel confident that we're going to draft a quarterback, 2 linebackers, offensive lineman, and a defensive lineman. So, will they be able to hit on talent in those later rounds? Sometimes we have, sometimes we haven't. It's imperative in this draft, and I don't have to tell anybody what they already know, but it is imperative in this draft in particular that we hit on every single one of those draft picks, because we can lock them up for 4 or 5 year deals dirt cheap on rookie contracts, and that would help get us out of this situation. But if you lose Anzalone, because don't get me wrong, Anzalone isn't the worst linebacker we've ever had, but he's not as good as he's not as good as Quan Alexander. He's not as good as Demario Davis. He's not as good as AJ Klein in a lot of ways that we lost to Buffalo. So he's not a bad linebacker. He just can't stay healthy, and he can't cover tight ends. But we're going to need a lot of help at linebacker. On the defensive line, we're probably going to lose Trey Hendrickson, which is fine with me because he's undersized. I know he had a good year, had like 13 sacks or whatever, but Cam Jordan was getting a lot of double teams. So that left him one-on-one on the other side. He's undersized. He's very fast, but that's why he got hurt towards the later part of the season, is because he's undersized. And I would be willing to bet you whatever team signs him, he's going to stay hurt frequently throughout the course of the season. So I'm not that upset about losing Trey Henderson. I don't think we're going to be able to keep both defensive tackles, Malcolm Brown and Sheldon Rankins. So that's why I think we'll be drafting a defensive tackle. We'll have to replace one of those. They still have David Onyemata, but it's going to be imperative to hit on this draft. So let me know what you think in the comment section. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about the additional draft picks, which direction they would go. Also, let me know what you think about the Saints possibly losing Emmanuel Sanders and Quan Alexander. And until next time, y'all have a good one, and make sure you share this video.